Hi, my name is Amy Bremer, and my daughter Marin is 10 years old, and she has autism, praxia, mold exposure, and Marcons. She's had respiratory issues most of her life that were extremely evident at night. She had trouble breathing and would have to have her mouth open. And during the day, she would constantly be sniffling and seem very uncomfortable. She's also minimally verbal, but she does use an iPad to type and communicate. So we did test and found MRSA in her sinuses, which is one of the other main reasons we decided to try the Formula 1 NSB. Starting out, we used the 50% solution with 1 spray per nostril 3 times a day. But since we've had such great results, we recently had an appointment and decided to, as a trial, go to full strength due to the positive results that we've been seeing.
Hi, I'm Linda from New Jersey, and I am seeing Dr. DeShore currently and have since spring of 2017. And originally I was treated for Lyme disease and some complications, and I was being given antibiotics for quite a long period of time, and had reached a plateau on my recovery and wanted to go a little bit deeper and see if I could achieve more success going a more holistic route.
Hello, my name is Alex, and I'm just going to be doing a little explanation of basically the results we've seen since we started with Dr. DeShore at BioNexus Health. The reason that we first started there was for my 8-year-old son. His name is Alessio, and he's on the autism spectrum. He has a number of different issues, history of digestive issues, constipation, difficulties in areas of speech, behavior, focus. But the main issues were he was very prone to colds, coughs like croup, pneumonia, ear infections, chronic nasal infections, and he had a history of antibiotic use since he was a very young baby.
Good morning, my name is Lynn McKittrick. I just would like to talk a little bit about my history with Dr. DeShore and my symptoms of Marcons and mold sensitivity. I started treatment with her in February of 2017. Before that, I had seen another physician for numerous years, but the symptoms that I was having, I wasn't getting any results from that. So I started seeing Dr. DeShore. She tested me for Marcons. I tested very high after the testing. So she started me on the nasal spray, which I hate to say or like to say, it was like injecting rocket fuel or battery acid. It was very powerful.
Hi, I'm Jyoti, and my son's name is Arjun Alokam. He is 4.5 years old. He was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5 years. From past 2 years, we have gone through natural medicines, and we have gone through some Ayurvedic, and we have gone through biomedical treatments. But we have seen progress, but not much, and it was not impressive at all. And we started giving Formula 1 NSB nozzle spray for him from January 2020, and we have seen a lot of improvements, and he is doing really excellent with that nozzle spray.
Hi, I'm Karen Thomas, and I'm here to share with you my experiences with NSB1 nasal spray, which Dr. DeShore has developed, and I've been using now for, I'd say over a year already. I've been using it. I have a past history of mold exposure, and when I'm exposed to mold, I tend to feel really dizzy. I get headaches. I can't think clearly at all, very foggy-minded. My face and head will itch, and I can tell pretty quickly when I've been exposed.
I want to tell you a bit of my history and why I'm a fan of Formula 1 NSB. I was exposed to mold in 2010 when the pump in our basement was clogged and water seeped through the concrete walls, but I seemed to be okay. At the time, I was far more concerned about how it may affect my kids, especially my oldest, who had many allergies, autism, and pediatric acute onset neuropsychiatric syndrome, or PANS for short. In 2015, I suspected my son's PANS trigger was Lyme disease, so I took him to a Lyme doctor, and she decided to test me for a lot of things too because I was not doing well. It turns out I had Hashimoto's, chronic Lyme, biotoxin illness, and diabetes insipidus. No wonder I wasn't feeling well. I spent most of my effort and money helping my son and his improvement and doing the minimum to keep myself functioning. In 2018, I went to the Autism One conference planning to meet up with friends and find more to help my son. I went to both of Dr. DeShore's talks and was thoroughly convinced that this time the conference was just for me. She said she could reverse mold illness. I needed that. I'd continued to get sicker and sicker to where I needed 4 hours to recuperate after sending the kids to school in the morning. I've now been taking Dr. DeShore's herbal blends, including Formula One NSB, for just over a year. She ran a lot of labs on me, and my local APRN was able to order, and also a Marcon's test, which required a large Q-tip up your nose into almost what feels like your brain. Marcon's are an antibiotic-resistant staph infection, and I had them. When we started, I had bacteria resistant to 6 kinds of antibiotics, including vancomycin, in my sinuses. After a year, they are only resistant to 3 kinds. My progress might indeed be faster if I would remember to take all 3 doses during the day instead of 2 that I usually get in. I regained a lot of energy in a few months. I've been able to exercise regularly, work, and keep up with 3 teenagers. I know it's hard for parents of sick kids to spend money on themselves or to make an effort to heal themselves, but it makes such a difference. Thank you, Dr. DeShore. I hope that many more families like mine will benefit from Formula One NSB. Thanks.
So initially, she didn't like me administering the spray, but now she actually smiles when we use it and doesn't have any issues at all. It was approximately 2 weeks when I noticed less sniffling. And then over time, this has been since February, so about 4 months, I don't hear that sniffling at all during the day. I don't see her sleeping with her mouth open at night, kind of making those snoring noises. But the one thing I did notice in the last month or so, which I was trying to figure out what's happening, I think the biofilm in her sinuses is breaking down because she's a couple times a day, usually in the morning, spitting out kind of a white film out of her sinuses and spits that into the sink. And so I can get a chance to look at it. So yeah, there's some stuff definitely breaking loose there. So previously, one of the issues we would have with her is that she would get very upset. She has OCD, and so that was really a problem for us at school, trying to rearrange the classroom and everybody else's things. And so obviously school didn't last too much longer since we started this, but even at home, she's had much less OCD, so that's made everyone much happier. She's also really been engaging in, I guess, everyday activities I'd expect someone her age to do. So she likes helping me actually cut vegetables and things to cook dinner. And last weekend, she actually helped me load the dishwasher, which is a big help to me. So I was glad to see that. So I think she's really wanting to participate in life right now. And the other nice thing is, even though she's not necessarily using more words, she's really trying to speak more and practicing sounds. I'll see her in front of the mirror in the bathroom, practicing her facial expressions and making different sounds. So I think she's trying to engage that visual with what's coming out of her mouth too. So it's good to see she's enjoying trying to learn to speak. So we've been very happy with our results. And so I have also been using the Formula One NSB for most of my adult life. As long as I can remember, I've had chronic sinus infections. Doctors have told me that. I've tried many different things. And so I thought I would give this a try as well. So I started out and still do use the Formula One NSB 3 times a day, 1 spray at full strength. And so it used to be every morning when I would wake up, all year round, I would have a lot of sinus drainage and just nasty gunk come out every morning that I would have to spit out to start my day. And sometimes even all throughout the day, depending on allergy season and everything. So I've been using this since February as well. And I would say that is 99% gone. And I also don't have the same sinus headaches that I've had in the spring. So far this year, I've been very pleasantly surprised that has also helped as well. So speaking from my own experience, I'm going to continue to use it because, I felt a lot of positive benefits as well. And I think slightly more energy too, without all the sinus and headache things as well. And probably performing a little better at work too. So anyway, easy to use and really good results for both of us. Thanks, Dr. DeShore.
Probably the one of the more noticeable symptoms was a brain fog and a really reduced ability to function, multitasking, memory, you know, things that I had done minutes before were no longer part of my thought process. Brain fog, inability to retrieve information, names, words in conversation. So I had a number of concerning symptoms, and we decided to go a little bit deeper and look at the possibility of Marcons. And I had very consistent mold exposure really throughout my whole life, and couldn't necessarily connect the symptoms to the exposure, but as time went on, it certainly made sense that the previous mold exposure and the ongoing present mold exposure was really hampering my ability to get well. So when I first was introduced to Formula One nasal spray, I was using it as prescribed, which was 3 to 4 times a day, and I did have some sensitivity to it, probably because the situation that I had was somewhat, it had been left untreated for quite a long period of time. So what I did was I did adjust the dosage from 3 to 4 times a day to 1 to 2 times a day to allow my sinuses to adjust. And then once I made that adjustment, I did go back up to 3 to 4 times a day. It was probably about a week, a little over a week, that I was working with adjusting to a dosage that was not causing any issues. And as time went on, I began to notice that the headaches were lessened. I would say I went from having them, waking up every single morning with them, to maybe having them, 2 to 3 times a week. And then as time went on and continued use of the spray, the headaches have virtually disappeared. I did also notice some sinus pressure. There was, also some relief as far as that was concerned to a more regular sinus condition. And as far as the brain fog and the cognitive function, the improvement of really all of these symptoms began within, I would say, a week's time, but really consistently improved over time. And I started really recognizing, because I was still in a moldy environment before I started remediation, I then started to correlate the symptoms with the exposure. So I had a number of what you would call relapses from mold exposure. I think the one thing that this spray did also was it made me sensitive to mold exposure. So if I walked into a building, I actually knew exactly what it was and when it was that I was exposed, and I could take appropriate measures. In other words, after clearing out the Marcons and the mold condition, I was able to connect the symptoms to the exposure, which was a first for me. So I do continue to use the spray. Nowadays, I really don't use it 3 to 4 times a day. I don't use it all the time, but I would say that I use it in a maintenance capacity because I have remediated the environment I'm in, but there are times when I go into other situations and I know that I've been exposed. So the spray, in addition to clearing the problem, very often I will use it if I have had exposure and I do sense that that I do need to take some sort of precaution. So all in all, my experience with the nasal spray has been very, very good in clearing up the initial condition, allowing me to identify exposure, and also allowing me to use in a maintenance capacity as time goes on to really prevent that condition from really getting to the place that it was when I began to use. So thank you.
We also noticed that he had vision issues. We thought that maybe he wasn't seeing things properly, so we brought him to the optometrist, and he was fitted with the prism glasses at about 3.5 years of age. He was also always very sensitive to light, and his pupils were very large and dilated. I always asked, the doctor, what is the issue with that? And they really just told me that it was, some kids are like that, but anyway, his issues were, his pupils were very, very large. So once we started with Dr. Deshore's program, she had us do a number of tests. And of course, one of the main things was the mold issue, and we had the mold and mark-ons that resulted in his lab work. So we started with her program, and we started with the Formula 1 NSB nasal spray. We started with a 25% dilution, and then we increased to a 50% dilution. We were treating him 1 to 2 sprays in each nostril, 2 to 3 times per day. And I can tell you that in terms of results, the sinus congestion, all the mucus, especially even at night, he'd go to bed, he'd always sound like he was coming down with a cold. That cleared up like almost immediately. It just kind of lifted once he started taking that. And as time went on, we noticed that he started just seeming like he was a little brighter, clearer with his focus. And we started noticing that his pupils started decreasing, started going down to more of a regular size. And I compare him to his older brother, and his pupils are almost about there now. And for me, that's been one of the biggest visual things that I've actually seen, because he's nonverbal, he can't explain to me how he feels, but I can see in him the difference in his pupils and in just the brightness, the alertness in his eyes. Also, he's caught a lot less colds and coughs over the last cold and flu season. And when he has caught the colds and coughs, they've been a lot less in intensity, and he's gotten over them a lot more quickly. The biggest thing we probably noticed was his sensitivity to light. He really doesn't have much sensitivity anymore. And when we brought him to the optometrist early in the year, she checked his eyes as usual, and for the first time in 5 years, she actually said that his vision has improved, and she reduced his prescription, and she was really surprised. I was so happy, because every time we've been there, it's either been his prescription has increased or stayed the same, but never that it's been reduced, and that he can wear his glasses a lot less frequently than he was supposed to in the past. So with him, those have been, the biggest issues. And again, maybe he's feeling a lot better than I noticed, but again, because he can't express himself, I'm only reporting what I can see myself. My other son, he's a typically developing 13-year-old boy. He's also had really incredible results. He's always been prone to sinus infections and seasonal allergies. And him, usually, during the peak season in the spring, like right about now, he's always had very itchy, red, watery eyes, swollen eyes, coughing, lots of congestion, and even difficulty breathing, in the peak part of the season. This year, we haven't even noticed that it's allergy season. No more itchy, red, watery eyes, no more coughing, no more swollen eyes. And he's like, Mom, I don't even feel like I have the allergies anymore. And the same thing has been with him. He started off with the 25% dilution of the Formula 1 NSB nasal spray, and then we've increased him to the 50%. He takes 1 to 2 sprays in each nostril, 1 to 2 times per day. And for him, that's worked well. And him as well, he was at the optometrist, because he also wears glasses. He's been wearing glasses for about 2 years. He was there the same day as his younger brother, and his vision as well, she said, improved. And he only has to wear glasses when he really feels like he's straining to see the whiteboard, when they're at school before this lockdown. But otherwise, the optometrist said, what are you doing differently? Because both kids at the same time, their vision has increased. And both kids have been taking the Formula 1 NSB spray during this period of time. So I'm really, really thrilled about that. And myself and my husband, we've been taking the same thing, 50% dilution, 1 to 2 sprays in each nostril twice a day. We both have had issues because there's been mold exposure in the home that resulted in the testing. We've both had issues with nasal congestion, swollen eyes, headaches. Myself, it was as if the whole left side of my head was blocked. I was just touching the sinus area was painful before. I don't have any more pain. Swelling's gone down. I feel like my breathing has just opened up, and it's incredible because I didn't know what was going on, if I had allergies, and now I realize that it's been the nasal spray, that it's been the mold that has really caused all these issues for myself and my husband. He's always had problems with chronic, sinus infections. He's always taken over-the-counter nasal decongestants, and he doesn't have to take any of that anymore. So we feel incredibly better with the Formula One NSB spray.
After testing positive for Marcons, Dr. Duchour started me on a nasal spray to relieve my symptoms. It was strong, but it was powerful, but it was really, really effective. I had spent many years with having extreme headaches and blurry vision. And after starting the nasal spray, I would say within about 2 weeks, it started to lessen. And probably by about a month, the symptoms were gone. I didn't have headaches anymore. I didn't have blurry visions. By the time I had gone back to her, which was 3 months, I was relieved of all my symptoms. I don't even know the position that I would be in now if I hadn't started to see Dr. Duchour. And I had also had extreme brain fog for many years. I didn't even realize how bad it was until I was relieved of the symptoms. Between a month and 6 weeks, I was relieved of the symptoms. I don't even know what position I would be in right now. I don't even know if I would be functioning if I hadn't followed Dr. Duchour's herbal protocol. So God bless you, Dr. Duchour, and thank you for saving my life.
Of improvements, and he's doing really excellent with that nozzle spray. And earlier we used to give him 1 spray for each nozzle and 3 times a day, and that too it was customized to 50%. Now we started giving him 2 sprays in each nozzle for 3 times a day, and he used to walk on his tippy toes, and he used to flap his hands, and he doesn't used to communicate with anyone, and he's kind of he won't be used to be socialized. Now he's not walking on his tippy toes, and he's not walking he's not flapping his hands. Earlier he doesn't used to play with her sister. Now he's playing really nicely with his sister, and he started, like earlier he used to say some words, but those are not used to be functional at all, and now he's being very functional, and he is saying amma, and he's saying hi nana, and he's saying hi Gopi, and whenever he needs something he's just coming and saying that. Like when he wants blanket, he's coming and saying I want blanket. Like when he wants his favorite breakfast, he's just coming and saying hi, I want dosa. And I was so impressed with his improvements, and he started singing a lot of rhymes, and he always used to sing alphabet rhymes, and he's saying alphabets, and he's doing really great with his speech, and now he's saying more than 200 and 300 words, and he's saying 3-word sentences also. Earlier he used to forget a lot of things, even though he knows them. Like if we ask him after a month or 2 months, he used to forget those, but now he's not forgetting those words, and he used to be in his own world. Now he's okay. He's at least mingling with everyone. He's playing with his sister a lot, and he's playing with other kids also nicely. And earlier like if he see any new people, he doesn't used to go. Now he's going to the new people also, and even if their names are difficult, even though he's trying to just repeat that, at least the trying is really good with him. All the time we were thinking about him, like whether he's going to be recovered or not, but he's doing really awesome with the treatment. But the eye contact wise, he's giving 80% of the eye contact. Like we are really thankful to Dr. Jody, and like we are blessed to have doctor. Really, I'm feeling so blessed.
And so I have been using the NSB1 nasal spray. I use 2 sprays in the morning, 2 sprays at night all the time. And then in the middle of the day, if there are days where I feel like I might have been exposed, or even if I've been out on a walk and I know that somebody has sprayed Roundup in their yard because I can smell the Roundup and the glyphosate, and I'll use it after that type of exposure. And I find that between that and also just regularly using it, that my immune system is stronger. The symptoms will go away sometimes within minutes. It's very quick that I notice the difference because the Marcons, which is the antibiotic resistant, staph that we carry in our nasal passages, comes from a lot of the mold exposure and allowing our bodies to develop that. And with my work with children with autism, I find that they have the same types of symptoms, and it crosses the blood-brain barrier and it easily gets into the brain. So these infections and these bacteria are very dangerous, and not only to just behaviors, but also to our brain in general. The NSB1 nasal spray has been a godsend for me and for my family, especially my husband. He's a surfer, and he tends to, gets into the water, and sometimes the water has bacteria in it, or he doesn't know it does, and he'll get out. He used to get out and he'd always have sinus problems. And now, and he'd have a lot of immune system issues too. I'd noticed that his immune system was weak. And since he's been using the NSB1 nasal spray, again, I think he uses about 2 sprays in the morning, 2 sprays at night, and his immune system is so much stronger. He hasn't been sick in a really long time, and that's the only thing that he's really changed. And definitely uses it after he surfs. He says he also says it has been really, really helpful for him as well. So I just wanted to share this with you. I find it in my history. I have 30 years background in holistic health, and as a craniosacral therapist, knowing that things affect the brain and how much they can, and in my work with autism, I find that NSB1 nasal spray has been just tremendously helpful.